Cyclones, rainstorms, volcanic eruptions, landslides, earthquakes are extreme natural disasters that are increasingly unpredictable, causing heavy damage to homes, roads, and the economy and people. In 2022, Munich Re, the world's largest reinsurance company, said that the total loss caused by natural disasters covered by insurance was $120 billion. More extreme weather events are forecast on the Earth's atmosphere, and it continues to warm up over the next decades. A terrifying tornado is sweeping away many things on the ground. The flood suddenly poured down from the high mountain to the downstream. A large amount of water poured down from the residential area like a giant waterfall. Flood water quickly spread to the surrounding area, severely damaging houses. The terrain is steep, so when it rains heavily upstream, the water flows quickly, and the drainage systems do not flow in time. Rapidly rising water creates a fast flow with very strong energy that spills down and sweeps everything in its path. Flash floods have a terrible destructive power, especially when the terrain is steep and the flow is not obstructed much. Therefore, in localities near hills, terrain with low vegetation cover, water flows into the valleys, washing away all obstacles on the road, including houses. Where the flood passes, it can wash everything away. At a Chinese shipping company that was severely affected by the flood. Flash floods are closely related to factors of rainfall intensity, topography, and drainage conditions in the basin. Heavy rain lasted for many days. This city was almost submerged in water. A large amount of water flows rapidly across a river, as if it wants to wash away the entire bridge. The doors cannot prevent the flow of water from entering the house. The water flowing makes the house look like a water reservoir. Water flooded in and invaded every corner of the home. The floods and rains passed and devastated the area it invaded, almost destroying everything. When the water level is compressed, the force of the water falling becomes stronger. Like this car that was swept away by the current. Not only this car, but many others also suffered the same fate. Flash floods are closely related to factors of rainfall intensity, climatic conditions, topography, and human activities. When the flood passed, everything it swept away was distorted. The wind blew strongly, and a wave hit the shore, washing away the surrounding houses. Households in this area were assisted in relocating, so fortunately there was no loss of life. However, the house was swept away by the flood. In recent years, the world has suffered historical floods. Causes heavy human and economic damage. Heavy rains not seen in many years have poured down many provinces in China. This shows that the flood situation is getting worse. The impact of storms is very obvious. Hundreds of roads are flooded. A huge amount of water flooded into the city. The flood entered, followed by hundreds of houses and remnants where it passed, making the city quickly become a chaotic mess, furniture piled high. The city is severely damaged, and it will take a long time to repair. Prolonged rains, in addition to causing flash floods, are also the cause of very serious landslides. Landslides occur singly in mountainous areas with weak soil structure. Floods are formed when rivers and streams are suddenly blocked, causing rivers and streams to rise up. When the barrier dam becomes unstable, the flood will be released downstream. Flash floods bring large amounts of mud and rocks from landslides or stream beds. Mud and rock flash floods are especially dangerous because of the fast-flowing flood currents and the potential for very high damage to the place where the flood starts. Flood peaks usually appear only 3 to 4 hours after the rain starts. As the storm goes further inland, the storm will weaken. However, they still leave extremely heavy and unpredictable consequences. Human history has witnessed many strong storms, destroying a series of constructions and infrastructure. Moreover, it's also claimed the lives of thousands of people and affected the development of the economy. This storm has caused widespread consequences. Storms are formed mainly from elements such as sunlight, sea, and the formation of water vapor. Besides objective causes from natural ingredients. It is impossible not to mention a number of subjective human causes. Climate change is part of the reason for the increasing number of storms. Great power for harsher storms are equally devastating. The unfortunate consequences caused by the storm for us are extremely large. Heavy rains, floods, strong winds, lightning, tornadoes damage houses. In addition, it also causes damage to facilities, crops, and directly affects human life. The closer it gets to the center, the stronger the storm's wind intensity. Coastal areas are places that receive direct consequences from storms. Wind gusts during the storm caused many structures to collapse, blowing away many objects, trees, and houses. The storm even caused serious flooding, widespread power outages, and human damage. Damage caused by storms depends on the direction of attack in a certain area. The combination of wind, rain, and flooding caused by a storm brings unpredictable damage. Some small storms consist of just a little wind and accompanying rain, while there are storms that span thousands of miles with heavy rain and wind. It takes many hours to many days for a storm to form. One cycle of the storm continues as the wind increases in speed. Thousands of people had to evacuate their homes in flood waters when the storm hit. Some areas recorded more than 300 millimeters of rain in just over 24 hours. Furniture and vehicles were swept away by the current, and some cars were stuck in heavily flooded areas. Heavy rain is a decisive factor causing flash floods. Heavy rain for many days, with no way for the water to escape, has caused flooding in many places. Floods occur because water accumulates on impenetrable surfaces. Heavy rain on a narrow area for 1 to 2 hours can cause rapid erosion, landslides, flooding, and flash floods. The impact of this natural disaster on human life is huge. Even domestic water will be polluted because the water carries waste that spills onto the streets, houses, and public water tap areas. The destructive power of flash floods will tend to decrease when flowing to a large area. The flow will be dispersed and will no longer flow rapidly and dangerously as before. In places with steep slopes, such as the foot of hills or in valleys, the destructive power of flash floods is extremely great. Storms often form when a low-pressure center develops into a high-pressure system surrounding it. The combination of opposing forces can produce winds and form storm clouds. Storm winds can start when the center of the storm is still hundreds of kilometers away from where you live. The higher you go, the stronger the storm winds become, so high-rise buildings are also susceptible to damage from strong winds above level 12. When a large amount of rainwater flows upstream and cannot escape in time to low-lying areas of the area. This This will cause the water level to rise rapidly, creating a rapid flow along the constriction waste, which will form a pipe flood. The destructive power of floods is extremely terrible and brutal. With the weather situation getting more and more complicated, making forecasting is also more difficult. Weather phenomena such as storms, tornadoes, thunderstorms, heavy rain, floods, severe cold, and drought is many parts of the world. These natural disasters are more extreme. In places with steep and short terrain, floods accumulate quickly, causing heavy human and material damage, especially to the infrastructure works. It is very difficult to predict the amount of rain, especially the amount of rain a storm is likely to cause. Authorities and people urgently need to improve their resilience when there is a disaster forecast.